Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy, where we are actually watching something that is entertaining. I know, shocking. Not much out of Hollywood is entertaining these days. I want to start this quick and dirty review for episode 8 of The Ark by talking a little bit about the ratings. Now, this is a sci-fi channel, so keep your expectations low. And low is what they were about episode 3-ish. Started off with a little over 500,000 watching the first episode, 578,000. It dipped to 310,000 for episode 3. Now, most shows that start off low and go that much lower are pretty much in a death spiral. Amazingly enough, The Ark has jumped back up to 403 for episode 8. And that is basically a third more than its lowest point, which is pretty dang good. And if they can keep the story going along and they can clip out some of the more annoying aspects of the show, they may be able to get back all of those people. As I mentioned last week in that review, this has been a 3-episode arc, 6, 7, and 8, in which we are involved in finding the Ark 3, recovering things from it, and the fallout from that. Now, last episode, they found the Ark. They realized it had FTL when they talked to the very fishy survivor, Kelly, and they basically ransacked the Ark 3 for supplies and information. Part of that information that they got was they realized that both they and the Ark 3 were hit by Ark 15. Now, this episode, or at the end of last episode, they were trying to get the FTL drive out of Ark 3, which is how the Ark 3 got ahead of them, and it set off a self-destruct sequence, but Lane got a backdoor code from waking up William Trust. Now, this week, Lane is basically trying to catch William Trust up on where he is and why he's there. Some of which Lane knows, some of which he doesn't. And as he's doing this, William Trust's wife knocks him the hell out by hitting him from behind. And I have to say, I am not impressed by the actress that plays his wife. I've seen her in other things, and I wasn't impressed with her in those either. She does mostly bit parts and Hallmark movies and foreign films, and she's not very good. Now, apparently what happened, and we see this in a flashback later on, is William Trust, I guess, was seen to have lost his marbles and was ousted from his company by a woman named Maddox. And when that happened, the wife decided to knock him out with a drug, put him on the Ark with a genetic library, and get the hell out of Dodge before the entire ecosystem of Earth just collapsed. While all that's going on, for Lane, Bryce and Ava wind up having some naked fun time together. Though Ava is very conflicted about it, probably because Bryce is dying, and she is promising herself and him that this is going to be a one-time thing. And anytime you hear that in a show or a movie, you're probably pretty good putting money on the fact that it's not going to be a one-time thing. While the two of them are basking in the afterglow, they get called to the bridge by Garnett, and they basically get let in on the discovery from the Nerd Twins that Ark 15 was what hit them and Ark 3. And in the video, you can see Maddox's name painted in big bold letters on the side of the Ark below Ark 15. So the speculation that I came up with when I saw that is I'm wondering if the survivors on Earth have been basically taken over by Maddox, and she has realized he's no longer on the planet and decides to send the arcs that left after the ones that were under his people's command out to hunt him and his people. And that's why they are shooting at Arc 1 and Arc 3 and probably Arc 2. So that's my speculation on that. Also this episode, Annoying Girl is back to being annoying, and I'm kind of sad about that because she was actually turning into a decent character over the last few episodes. And I don't like that the writers have her back to being just a non-stop chatter machine. This episode, she's realizing that she likes Angus in more than just a friendly fashion, but she's also realizing that the new girl, Kelly, has glommed onto him. And I'll say a little bit more about that later, but it's kind of getting cloying. About 10 minutes in, the council decide that Lane not reporting in is not like him, and so they start a search party for him. And despite the fact that Felix, his people, and some of the other council members have looked basically everywhere on the ship for him, they can't find him. And they decide to track his communication to Arc 3 that gave the code for the self-destruct sequence to stop. And they figure out that it's coming from an area of the ship where there shouldn't be anything because there's nothing on the schematics. And Felix realizes it's the area of the ship that Trent ran to when he was running away before he got arrested or detained. And they go to that area and they find the hidden room with Lane and Mr. and Mrs. Trust. And they bring them out of there, and not everybody is happy to see Trust as he's walking through the ship to the bridge. Some people are just absolutely over the moon to see him and happy to worship the ground that he walks on. Others are spitting at his feet because he killed family members with some of his actions back on Earth. And among those not happy to see him is Bryce, who just straight up decks him when he gets to the bridge. And they basically put the Trusts in the room where they had the council meetings to be guarded by Felix, who was part of their security team when they were back on Earth, and he wound up saving both of their lives when an assassin tried to kill him. And while this is going on, Doc is starting to think she killed the other survivor of Arc 3, the one that died on the operating table, and she thinks she killed him because she was detoxing and so her hands were unsteady. And eventually she goes to Kat for help, and she actually winds up being a good person to go to because apparently after Kat's accident back on Earth, Kat also went through rehab because they gave her a bunch of medicines and she wound up hooked on them. And so her and Kat are going to see each other for counseling sessions on getting Doc detoxed from her amphetamines. Now, as a result of finding Lane with the Trusts, Garnett strips him of rank for keeping Trust a secret from everybody, including her and the council. And of course, he's pissed about that because he's an entitled asshole, so he reverts back to being asshole. And that comes into play near the end of the episode. Now, for their troubles in getting the FTL off the Arc 3, Ava gets it hooked up to the Arc 1, but William Trust is not happy about that because he knew Maddox, the woman who invented it. And his problem with her is the fact that she is lazy and likes to take shortcuts on the projects that she does. Well, the council overrules his concerns, and so they hit the FTL drive, and it works for a short time before temporal distortions start occurring and people start getting out of whack temporally. Ava, Alicia, and William Trust head to the engine room, and with his help, they are able to disable the FTL engine. Now, one thing I was hoping that they would get to in this episode, but for some reason the writers never touched on it, was exactly how far towards Proxima did they get on the FTL drive before they had to disable it. Hopefully they get to that next episode. But I thought that was an important thing that should have been part of the episode wrap-up at the end, and it wasn't. Now, near the end of the episode, we had a couple of wrap-up scenes, both involving William Trust. The first was William Trust sneaking off to see Kat, and apparently the two of them were having an affair back on Earth. And he went to see her to get his groove on. And I guess when he's done doing that, Lane runs into him, accidentally on purpose, in the halls, and pledges his loyalty to Trust, aggrieved that Garnett stripped him of his rank because of his silence on the fact that the dude was even on the ship, and somehow sees that as over the line when they can't trust him anymore because he proved himself untrustworthy. But Trust he seems to be, the guy who plays him is a pretty good actor. I haven't seen him in anything, I don't think, elsewhere. But his performance in the show is pretty good, and it's plain he sees Lane as the useful idiot that he is. I think this conclusion to the 3-episode arc is setting up future mutiny or civil war between pro and anti-Trust crew members, and an attempt by Trust to make himself the leader of Arc 1. And I think Lane is probably going to figure large in that storyline as it goes forward. I'm not happy with the regression that the writers wrote into this episode, with both Alicia going back to being annoying girl and Lane going back to being the asshole. I can see the utility of having Lane revert. He was still an asshole. It was just less of an assholey nature to him over the last few episodes. But I can see the utility of having him go back to the way he was in the first few episodes as the tension in the crew ratchets up. And then the other thing I didn't really like, although haven't really liked his character to begin with. He's annoying, and he's not annoying in your face like Alicia is. He's hardly in the show, so it doesn't really matter. But Angus is playing quite the idiot in completely falling for the calf eyes that Kelly, the survivor, is shooting him. And the fact that she's glommed onto him makes me wonder what she's up to. I have a feeling Alicia will probably have something to do with the Kelly villain reveal. I have no idea how that'll go, but I have a feeling that the writers will go in the direction of having her be instrumental in sort of unmasking Kelly and whatever the hell it is she's up to, and whyever the hell it is she needs a gun that she stole from the Arc 3, and I guess that was episode 7. And the final thing that I thought they did in this episode that I actually like, because I like her character and have from episode 1, is Ava falling for another dying man. And the fact that it pisses her off. Her and Bryce getting together was kind of telegraphed in, I think it was episode 6. So that's not really a surprise. And I have a feeling that she's going to go digging into the files of Arc 3, because Alicia mentioned something about offshoot technologies from discovering FTL, and some of them having to do with medical cures. And so I have a feeling she's going to go digging through the Arc 3 files and find a cure for Bryce. But that's basically episode 8. And I'm looking forward to seeing where some of the stuff in this episode leads. And it looks like it's going to be an interesting wrap up, because I think this was supposed to be a 12 episode first season. And I'm not sure if they're going to get 12, because I was looking on something the other day and it only had 10 episodes scheduled. So I'm not sure if Syfy pulled back on the full 12 episodes. So I'm wondering if there's only 2 episodes left. But it's setting up to be a very interesting season wrap up. And I'm hoping that NBC Universal is smart enough to order this series for a second season. And I think that's going to be it for this video. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below. I believe the next video is probably going to be something on a follow-up on the firing of Victoria Alonso, because that is getting delicious. But more has come out about that since her firing. It is now confirmed it's a firing, and I'm going to be doing a video on some of that, because Disney is letting all kinds of deliciousness come out about what was going on behind the scenes with her, and why it was they finally decided to axe her, and some of her responses to being axed. So that is going to be just a lovely little food fight out in Hollywood. Anyway, that's all for this video. Until next time, tschüss.